Hello everyone, Joey here. This week we are going to do our own Dear Data visualization project in which we are going to collect data about ourselves and come up with our own visual encodings for that data. Instead of using a computer, we're going to use pen and paper to come up with hopefully something beautiful. Just an example of something that someone's done in the past. This is a project by Alice Sun. She was a previous student of mine in which she used different colored dots and the number of dots to indicate how long she spent on different modes of transport and which transport that she took. And for her project, she used pen and paper to note which transportation she was taking and what times she took to get from A to B. In this case, what we're going to do is structure our data in a data table using Google Forms. So in this case, I created a Google form, titled it Dear Data Mobility Diary, and created a set of questions which speak to this idea of getting from A to B throughout the city. So the first question I put in was our transport mode. You might think, hey, that looks kind of funny. What's the deal with this underscore? And the thing is that when you start to work with data, it's handy to structure your titles without spaces. And yeah, you don't want funky characters. You just want to keep it plain and simple, and that'll make our lives easier down the road. So in this case, we've got transport mode with an underscore, and you can see that there's bike, bus, train or subway, walking, an on-demand mobility service, and so on. So that's question number one. So you took some mode of transport starting from point A and ending at point B. You can add in a date and your trip start and end. When you submit your form, you're going to, or when you fill out those questions in section 1, you're going to change this option to submit form rather than going on to the supplementary data. The supplementary data section includes information like the latitude and longitude of where you started and the latitude and longitude of where you ended, things like the distance traveled for that particular trip and the trip duration. These are all things that we'll do after the fact, so don't worry about doing that directly when you're submitting your form. So in this case, let's say we want to send this to ourselves, that we could start tracking this data. In this case, I'm going to send this to my SVA email, which is jlee358 at sva.edu, and I'm just going to send that to me, and in a second, I'm going to open my phone. Here's my phone, that's me. And I will have received an email in my inbox. Just take a second. Okay, so Dear Data Mobility Diary. And what we're going to do is fill out this form. So I'm going to open up that thing, and quite likely it's going to ask you to log into your account. So it's going to take some time to load, and I'll just enter my email address, so jlee358 at sva.edu. Okay. And then it's going to take you to the SVA login portal. So I'll do jlee358, and I'm going to just paste my password in there. Whoop. And I'm going to log in. Blah, 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 all this stuff. It's going to take some time to load. All right, so now we've got our form in our mobile browser. And let's say this morning I took the train starting from, actually let's say I take the bus starting from my friend's house to the office. Oops. office. And this today is the September 13th, the ending day. Yep, and my trip started at, let's say, 12:30 p.m. and it ended at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock p.m. and let's say going for lunch. Okay, and now I can submit that, and that response will be added to a spreadsheet living in Google Sheets. So this is all great and good, but the thing is, opening up your mobile browser, finding and tracking down your form is kind of a hassle, and then you'll have to keep logging in all the time. So maybe what you can do is you can go to this little box with this up arrow and add this to your home screen. This little box will pop up, and you can move over to where it says Add to Home Screen. And if you do that, you can name it whatever you'd like. In this case, I'll just keep the default. Click Add. And now I've got this super handy Dear Data mobility button here that every time, let's say I woke up in the morning, go to work, press this button, and now my Google form will pop up, and you can easily add in those data appropriately. So now you've got your form on your phone. You can spend the rest of the week adding in data. If you want to start taking a look at what's in your data, you can go back to your web browser. You can see in responses that you've sent something. As you start to add in different trips that you've taken, these will continue to change. And note that there's no responses yet for these supplementary data. What you can do is you can see that you can receive those responses in Google Sheets. If you click that, you'll be taken to this thing here, and you can see that there's different entries for these different trips that you've taken, and you'll see that there's like latitude, start, and end, and all this sort of supplementary information that we haven't plugged in yet. But those are things that we'll look at next week, so don't worry about that. Unless you wanted to like calculate all that stuff on your own, which is also cool. So in this case, let's say you don't want to work with all this data in Google Sheets, but rather in something like R or some other program. You can download that data as a comma-separated values spreadsheet. So if you click that, you can do save. It'll pop open, and let's say I want to open this thing up in something like, I don't know, let's say Atom. This thing will pop up, and now we can see our data as just plain text. You get these kind of empty rows because, or empty slots because we haven't entered any information there. But I think you get the idea. Yeah, so that's basically it. I guess just be good about collecting data throughout the weeks, that when you start to draw your visualizations, you have material to work with that is satisfying for you. So I guess that's all for this video. Let's talk about visual encoding of this data in another video or another section. All right. Thanks, everyone.